And welcome back to the ABCs of ERP and Beyond, the podcast that helps businesses make sense of ERP, everything from selection to implementation and beyond. And today we are tackling a critical piece of the ERP puzzle, which is all around building the right project team for a successful implementation. We know that ERP is more than just software. It's really a transformation that touches every part of the business. If you've watched our episodes before, you've probably heard us refer to this as really a heart transplant of the business, and it is true. And for a small to mid-sized company, it's especially crucial. It's probably the biggest investment that you'll make, and it certainly is the biggest investment from the tech side of things. So today's episode is really about who needs to be involved. We're going to break down some of the key positions from leadership roles like CEO and CFO all the way down to hands-on decision makers on the shop floor. And really some of the tips that we've found along the way of really building out that project core team to enable a successful implementation. But I could not do this without my fellow co-host, Nirav Shah. Welcome back.
Hey, Peter. Happy to be back. Continuing around to season 3. And I think we touched on some of this, a little bit of this topic on season 1 when we kicked off our podcast. And I'm happy we're revisiting it and getting a little deeper into a core project team. I think this topic doesn't receive enough emphasis early on, even before selecting an ERP system. Because especially this is probably really rampant in the SMB space, especially for smaller companies where they've outgrown QuickBooks, and their next thought is, because they've heard from somebody or their customer said you should think about an ERP system. Let's go get an ERP system. And since they've come off of QuickBooks, remember QuickBooks is a very siloed system. It's only a few type of real personas that handle QuickBooks. Accounting person, right? Maybe you could do a salesperson, order entry person or whatnot, but it's really oriented to accounting, right?
Yeah.
Versus an ERP is actually all hands on deck. Everybody in the business will be using that system in one capacity or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unlike QuickBooks, it's really just, focused on the accounting side. So those customers have this mindset that, okay, someone told me about ERP. I'm outgrowing QuickBooks, so I need to go and do it. And I'll just have this one person that handles my QuickBooks do the ERP implementation. That is like way, that you can't do that. It
No.
will create so many problems and headaches for that company that's embarking on this ERP system. So I felt like, as much as ERP vendors are doing like quick implementations, quick start implementations, almost making it feel like you could implement an ERP as you implemented QuickBooks, I kind of wanted to pump the brakes on that methodology. You can't really do that. An ERP project inherently is, I wouldn't say difficult, but it requires a lot more planning and it requires more department involvement here because it's integrated. That's the key word here. It's integrated. It's an integrated system for sales, for purchasing, for planning, for warehousing, for shipping, receiving, and finance, right? Finance sits in the middle of this circle of all these other departments that then are feeding into the financial circle in the middle, right? And it's important to understand that. You can't just take your mindset from QuickBooks and apply that to ERP. You need to develop a good project team. That is step one in my eyes, because everyone needs to be on the same page. Like, let's all agree we need an ERP system because here are these problems that every department's having, right? Everybody on the team approves of the direction the company is going in, right? And we have enough people that understand technology to support the ERP implementations for those different departments.
Yeah. You wouldn't do this. The key word here is integration, as you said, and you wouldn't do this in any other department. You wouldn't decide, okay, we're going to swap out all of the machines We're going to swap out all of the control interfaces overnight, say. Imagine what's going to happen the next day when all of the operatives work in and the control panels are different and the machine layout is different and the shop
Yep.
floor is different.
Right.
One, they're not going to know what to do. And
Right.
two, they're going to push back because you've essentially decided for them how their department's going to run. You're going to, oh, okay, so now you're going to do it like this. Now you're going to run your shifts like this. Use this piece of interface now to do it. They're going to hate it immediately. It's
Absolutely.
not a great way to start.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things here in terms of having a project core team that we've already touched upon, which we'll go into further. But yes, I
Yeah.
completely agree. Now moving to an integrated system from a finance system, it's more crucial than ever that
Yeah.
you have to have a variety of people on that project core team.
Yeah. And one thing I didn't mention, it starts at the top. Really, this planning, this understanding of who will be part of the project team starts at the top. And a lot of CEOs and a lot of presidents that are so used to QuickBooks, but they know they've outgrown it, they have a hard time of letting go. So you'll see like these really skeleton project teams that aren't going to make a successful ERP project because there's only a few people that know the margin. There's only a few people that know cost. There's only a few people that know about the business, right? How it operates. And now when the thought occurs to them or they get that, kind of aha moment, like, oh, holy cow, I have to actually allow people to see some of the sensitive information, right?
Mm-hmm.
They kind of push back and say, no, I don't want all these other people on the project team. I only want these two people, right? And that CEO or that president really needs to take a hard look at the business. Say, hey, if I'm going to grow this thing, I'm going to grow my business, right? You kind of have to let some of this information flow organically. I'm not saying give everybody margin information. I'm not saying give everybody information of strategically of who you buy from, right? That a lot of this stuff should be locked down, but you have to learn to let go for people to do their job, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of times when you're moving from QuickBooks to an ERP, a lot of those people are used to doing things manually, just doing things in their head, flying around emails, flying around Excel files all over the place. And who corrects all that and who makes sense of all that is the finance person that then just goes and kind of piecemeals it together in QuickBooks with the financials and make sure that the president or CEO is happy with the numbers at the end of the day. So it really comes down to
Yeah.
that saying, is that CEO or that president, the main sponsor of this project ready to
Yeah.
start, you know, letting other people make decisions for their department that will have a direct impact
Yep.
to finance, right?
Yep.
And make the business better and have it grow so you get better data and all that type of stuff. So, that's
Yeah.
I feel like that to me is very crucial in terms of that mindset shift.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's also the person we touched upon this when we talked about the kickoff, how to have a successful kickoff. That's the person that really needs to champion the project
Yep.
and needs to communicate the whole importance of the project. They're the ones that lay it out and say, "Look, this is what we're doing. We're all in it. We're one team. It's going to be tough. These are the expectations. We hear you. Like this is going to be additional work to your normal day to day, but
Mm-hmm.
this is why we're doing it. We're all in together, and this is the most important transition that we're going to go through
Yep.
over the last few years. So that role is yeah, is so important when you say it starts with the top, because
Mm-hmm.
once you have that person be the champion, and is seen, because some people that you're now having on this project team, say people closest to the work, they might have never even spoken to the CEO.
Right.
So
Right.
that CEO needs to be visible when the kickoff happens. And also, if they are to be part of the project team and be on the regular update calls, they have to always attend. They have to
Yeah.
show. They have to
Yeah.
show that they're the ones, also
Mm-hmm.
always around, always accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So if we look at this from step-by-step perspective, first we made the decision that we need an ERP system. The present owner is behind this project and is willing and able to delegate a lot of decisions by the respective departments, right? Or they overlook the workflow, right? And then it's saying, okay, well, who are going to be these people? How are we going to assemble this team of mine that's going to go ahead and implement this ERP project for me, right? And let me preface this by saying, the type of people that we want to mention here, it's going to be for a project team in an SMB company, right? That's maybe around 25 to 50 million dollars in revenue, with possibly with like 50 to 150 employees. Okay, that's kind of what the team that we're thinking about when we're describing how to create a successful project team here. Maybe it's one location, or maybe it's multiple locations because you have warehouses in different places around the country. But the the CEO is the main sponsor, right? He's, approving of the vendor, the product, right? Along with the rest of the team, obviously, right? But now we're looking at CEO, CFO. They're the middle, they're the nucleus, I feel like,
Yeah.
of the project team. Okay. They may have some some subordinates of their own that are going to be part of the team potentially, right? Maybe accounting manager, a cost accountant, right? That type of thing, AR, AP clerks that might be in it. And you got the sales manager, right? Because then you kind of have to start dividing this up by major module. I feel like that's like probably the
Yeah.
easiest, right? When you implement modules in the ERP system, you're implementing sales and purchasing and planning and shipping and
Hmm.
receiving and finance.
Yeah.
So if you just do it by module and you assign somebody, it might make your life easier a little bit. But you have sales, right? And sales is one that we were talking about a little bit earlier, Peter, right before we jumped on the podcast, is the one I'm always confused about in terms of the people that the client puts in place to make the decisions when it comes to configuring the sales module in the ERP system.
Careful. Careful.
I know you come with a sales background, right? I'm not going to say anything negative, um, but I feel like this person, the sales department, there is a strategic and there's a tactical person. Okay. The strategic person is the person that's kind of looking at markets, where's the next opportunities? Who do we have the right sales team? What's our quotas, right? What's our sales? What's incentives, like all that type of stuff. Then you got the tactical person okay, that interfaces with the outside sales team, that gets the POs, does quotes in the system, right? Where you keep things more organized, that maybe help with price changes inside the system, right? Help with quantity changes, help with understanding where the status of the sales order is, right? In my mind, you kind of need like a hybrid, right? You need that sales manager because they want to make sure that the flow between grabbing the order, the PO to the ERP system is seamless. You're not spending a lot of time
Yeah.
doing that. But the methodology behind creating that sales order in the ERP system, what fields do we want to hit? What, ways do we want to, different statuses of the order can we create, right? How should we go ahead and handle exceptions in the ERP system? I think that's someone that should be a little bit more tactical. That is in the job day to day,
Yeah.
right? Because I think if you have the strategic mindset, it doesn't maybe really follow the tactical, ways you could do things in the ERP system. So that
Yeah.
one to me is always a little tricky because I've seen where the sales module training literally should take maybe 2 days. Okay, there's not much to it. There's sales pricing, there's sales or sales quotes, maybe campaigns, right, and contacts if you're going to go into the CRM side. But really, 2 to 3 days of training should be pretty sufficient for an SMB company. But I've seen this go on for like 2 weeks because there's so much back and forth between, you know, the sales manager who runs the department and the person who is actually doing the day-to-day data entry, that they can't come to an agreement on how to do things in the system,
Yeah.
right? And that to me, I feel like is too much time. It's a struggle for all companies to find that balance. But I think in my perspective, and to be successful in implementing, the sales module, you want someone that's going to do the day-to-day entry, that understands the business of the business, number one, the type of POs you get, and how to quickly and efficiently put in those sales orders in the system, handle the exceptions, and it moves down the planning line, right? And it goes down
Yeah.
to planning, MRP, and MPS. So I think that's a little important one, I think, for sure. And how do you get that right person in place that has kind of both sides of it, right? Is it a tag
Yeah.
team? Is it just one person? How do you do it? But you've been on the sales
Yeah.
team. What do you think?
I enjoyed watching you navigate that. But no, I do agree, especially if you've only got someone on the tech side with no kind of strategic vision, because you don't want to have the tech team go off and create a load of work for maybe a product line or a market sector that you're now about to exit, like as of next year.
Yeah,
Why are we
yeah,
putting so many resources into something that's actually dying off, and the strategy of the business is actually to kill that off eventually and concentrate on somewhere else. So yeah, and that's difficult. It is difficult to try and find someone that can balance both of those things. Maybe it's not even one person. Maybe that sales manager role is right, you're sales manager, most of your responsibilities lie on the high level stuff,
yeah,
um, and aligning annual plans and long range plans and the strategy of the business to what's happening. And then you maybe have some competent person that's, I wouldn't say second in command, but ask that sales manager, who do you turn to in your team that you know are reliable, well informed, intelligent enough that maybe they're also on this project team from a day to day technical standpoint. Um, but yeah, I can see why it's a difficult one to balance.
mhm,
But I think with these positions we've said about so far, it's all about, why are you bringing all of these people onto the project team? Well, we know it's now integration. More departments are coming on board than we would have had from QuickBooks. So really, you're bringing them on because they're the ones that are going to own the module. They're the ones that their team are going to go to. So they're the ones that are going to be responsible for the design of it and the configuration of their particular area of the business. So I think a lot of these, it's a case of having someone that knows that department inside out, can speak for the rest of the people that work in that department, but that can somehow blend that kind of strategy and technical side at the same time.
yeah,
Um, they're going to be ultimately responsible for communicating updates or communicating um, requirements at whatever stage of the project you're in, and essentially owning that, making sure it's delivered on time. They're not necessarily the ones that are going to do all the work, these people on the project team, but they're going to be the people that are responsible for delivering it on time. So I think any position needs a balance of technical to get it done and to validate it before you maybe then pass that over back to the ERP partner,
yeah,
but also the strategy of managing people and being able
yeah,
to get, they're almost like little project managers in
yeah,
their own department for this.
yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, with the sales manager and maybe the sales clerk or whatever we want to call them, the sales manager, I think they need heavy input in the CRM. I think that's
Yeah,
huge for them. The CRM is huge. They need to guide that. When it comes to ERP and just like basic sales training, sales quote training, and all that, maybe that maybe could be the sales clerk or whoever's in charge
yeah,
of customer service at that point could be that. But
yeah,
kind of continuing on here, then you kind of got this whole general area, right? We call operations. Now,
yeah,
operations could be multiple people, depending on the size of your organization, like one for planning, one for purchasing, one for production, one for receiving, one for shipping, right? Right there, there's like 5 people, right? Or you could have, just like the manager for planning, right? Who plans both production and purchasing. So that's one person. And then you have one person for the shipping and receiving, right? Depending on the size of your company. But you do need input from that. I think that, and you have to bring that team on early enough as well, right? Because a lot of decisions that are made when entering a sales order, when identifying due dates, when identifying splitting lines, when making exceptions, planning should understand what sales is doing, right? Or operations needs to understand what sales is doing, how customers are set up, right? So they could potentially make better decisions when things, don't go perfectly on the planning side. So they understand how to troubleshoot and they understand, where they are in the process. of that specific order. So, a lot of times I see in projects that the operations team doesn't get involved until like the very last like 2 weeks of training or 1 week of training, whatever that is, right? But I think they need to kind of start having some input. Maybe just be part of the
Yep.
design. Maybe be part of configuration. They don't just sit for the training and putting in the sales order, putting in all that. But I think there should be some sort of kind of recap or understands operation knows that hey, these are the decisions that were made in
Yep.
these previous modules that will impact you as part of the standard workflow or business process flow, so you know how to handle them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially if you're coming from something like QuickBooks, where
Mm-hmm.
having a bill of materials is a completely new concept. They
Yeah.
have to be in the room when that's being
Yep.
discussed.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Absolutely. And that's an engineering team, right? Who from engineering is going to do that, right? Maybe you have application engineers, maybe you don't, right? But if you're writing bill of materials on a Word document and send that over to the production floor, and there's no actual true database of these bill of materials sitting anywhere, probably want to get operations involved, want to get maybe engineering involved, get some people involved, so you could start organizing these bill of materials in the right way in your new ERP system, right? Whether
Yeah,
that's bombs and routings and runtimes and setup times or whatever that looks like, right? There's a specific way to do that, but those are type of decisions that, the people that are very close to that process now, whether it's manual, right, need to be involved in it.
yeah,
So they understand how that's going to be set up in your new ERP system. Some of the other, what I call usual suspects that, maybe some companies think about, they don't think about, but like you have the project manager, right? And I think that's a really important one because project manager is kind of the he is kind of what I call the quarterback, okay, and the power user of the business, right? So you get
that
less
knows the
dependency on your partner.
playbook back to
The
front.
play exactly that knows the playbook back to forth, back and front, exactly right. That could help train other users, because you have a difference between your key users. And by the way, I don't think we've classified that. These people that we're referring to here are key users,
Yeah,
okay? The project team. End users are different. End users are the people that will actually learn the process as defined by the key users.
yeah,
Okay. Not to say you don't take their input. I think it's always valuable, but the end users are separate, key users are separate. We're talking about key users here. Project manager basically is going to go ahead and be in every training, be in every meeting, you know, kind of be responsible to quarterback internal meetings, okay, which we'll get to here in a little bit. Look at the bigger picture. Is this actually helping the company, the direction we're going down, right? He's the liaison in terms of between the partner and the CEO and the C-suite at your company, right? And kind of he's the guy that kind of the glue that keeps it all together. So I think that's an important position. And if that's
hmm
if you don't have that position, right? Obviously, no one is always has a ERP project manager on staff, right?
yeah,
You're running your business. At the end of the day, you have material managers, you have sales clerks, you have AR clerks, AP clerks, you have all those type of people. But I would say look at your talent pool. You're the CEO. Look at your talent pool and see who you could identify in the company that is
yeah.
hungry and eager to take on a new ERP project, right? And basically start to um, be that person internally to
hmm
drive the project to completion.
Yeah, and I think also with this position, it's really the person that is going to be communicating with the ERP partner most often.
Yep.
If I'm a CEO, I don't want to be talking every day, every week to the ERP partner about, oh, we need this piece of data, or we need some sample customers and sample items to
Hmm.
check something.
Right.
Um, I need API endpoints to check the shipment carrier integration.
Hmm.
I don't want to be doing with that. So
Right.
it's got to be someone that can handle that kind of stuff because they
Hmm.
are really going to be the one that channels all of the communication from the business to the ERP partner. So
Right.
I think this is a key position. It's the key of keys because it needs to be that person that has expertise and I would also say has influence to the other
Yep.
people,
Yep.
influence on the other key positions, the other key people on this project team, but also influence from end users as well, because it's not just a case of um, assigning whoever's available. It needs to
Hmm.
be the person most suited to the job, and that is a balance of expertise, deep knowledge of the business itself, as you said, the quarterback, but also to be the person that can influence, can drive change, can keep momentum going when it gets tough, and especially when you get in the nitty gritty of cleaning data and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've got requests, maybe even last minute requests.
Yep.
Um, there needs to be the people that continue to champion the project itself. So
Yeah.
you're right. It needs to be that person that is hungry, that wants to lead such a project, because when it gets tough, the
Yeah.
project manager is the one that needs to continue that, because if end users and other people on the project team see that person moaning or dragging their heels,
Yeah.
that's when the whole house starts to crumble and fall.
Yeah, 100%. And just to add to that, I think this project manager is first point of contact for issues and disputes, right? It's kind of a strong person to be able to say, "Hey, Mr. Department Head, we shouldn't do this enhancement just because we were doing it a certain other way. Just because we're doing it one
Yeah,
way in the past, there's another way to do it, and we're going to do it this way moving forward." Right? So you
yeah,
kind of have to have that strong person that
yeah,
understands, what the present is and what the future could be as well,
yeah,
and not be afraid to speak
yeah.
their mind, because that's important. Um, because in a lot of these projects get stuck in, we did everything, we did things this way, so this is how we need to do it in the new system.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, this is the
uh,
person that needs to balance both that, to question why we do things. And sometimes people might get a little bit offended when
yeah,
you are sitting there as a project manager, or if you don't, your ERP partner is going to be sitting there questioning, why do you do this?
right,
Why do you do that process like this? Because
yeah,
your ERP partner is probably seen 1,000 of these before in 1,000 companies,
right,
and
right,
heard it 1,000 times. Oh yeah, but we're different. We're different
right,
from every other implementation you've done. You're
right,
not. You're not special.
yeah,
It's been done a
exactly,
thousand times before. So they're going to question. They're going to go, "Why are you doing it like this?" So
yeah,
the project manager needs to also be the person that is flexible enough, and um, needs to be the person open enough to accept change and go, "Okay, well, that's the way we used to do it because of the limitations of the ERP we used to be on, or the stack of paper that we're used to.
right, right,
That's not the way that we have to do it like this."
right,
That's going to be so beneficial, because you're going to avoid a load of customizations,
right, 100%,
needless ones, and maybe even save costs, because there's going to be ERP partners out there that want to sell you every single module needlessly, just to
yeah,
get their margin off it.
exactly,
But it's going to be the strong person that says, we don't need this. Instead of spending, I don't know, $1,000 a month on this module, we just have to tweak our internal process and it all goes
right,
away.
right.
So it's a difficult position, because they're going to have to
It
wear a
is.
few different hats.
Well, they're managing the budget, right? They're managing expectations, they're managing people at the end of the day.
Mhm.
This is a very important role. So anyone that's
This is
listening
the,
to this podcast, yeah,
I would also say this is also the person, when they're championing this and getting everyone excited, that can easily snowball too far.
yeah,
Where you've got like the plant manager that's super happy, that wants everything, every bell and whistle he wants turned
yeah,
on day one, automate the lot, all of this fancy stuff. It needs to be the person that says, you can have anything, but you just can't have everything. So
right,
they need to
yeah,
push back as well. So
yeah,
it's difficult, isn't it? Because you want them to encourage people and be involved and come up with new ideas and a fresh pair of eyes of how the business looks post implementation. But they
right,
need to also be the person that knows when to push back and say, do you really need this? Or
exactly,
maybe, this is a phase two item. Let's not concentrate on that for phase one.
right,
So they've got to balance the excitement and idea generation from the different key users with what's actually realistic and in budget. Because before you know it, budget goes out the window and the time frame goes out the window.
yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. Um, kind of move from these positions that we just outlined, right? Again, this is kind of just a generalized view of how to build a successful project team. Okay. Part of managing this project team is also understanding the workload expectations. Okay. And I think this part gets generally never talked about. I think this is where you risk burnout really, really fast. You risk employees becoming very unhappy, right? Everyone starts a project and everything's great, kumbaya, and we're ready to move forward and have a ton of fun here. But then they realize that they also have to do their own work, right? All the
Yep.
other stuff that just piles up day to day, right? Not outside of just learning a new system, right? So my expectation when we implement for our customers, we always tell the clients like, hey, try to spend at least 1 or 2 hours in the system every day, at least at a minimum of one, right? Do it in your lunchtime, do it somewhere else. Be in the system at least for an hour and do transactions and do what you learned from the night before or day before, whatever it is, or things that you want to work on, right? Obviously, we would like 2 hours. We don't get that all the time, right? But then that 1 hour, right? We think it's a small number. Oh, you're just telling us to do 1 hour, it should be no problem. But you'd be surprised how many people can't even spend 15 minutes in the system because they have so much other work to do, right? And why don't they do that? I don't blame them. It's because you know, they have lives after work. They, have families and they have deadlines to meet because their boss has given them deadlines for different projects, right?
Yeah.
Their, customers and vendors and things like that, they have to communicate. They have to keep the business afloat. So I find all the time that happens, and this is something you want to minimize, is project team turnover. You want to minimize that as much as possible because that's just new knowledge that just keeps being repeated over and over again, right? I would say have a good plan to handle your workload expectations. To say, okay, people in, let's take sales for example, right? All right, we expect you to be in the system 1 hour a day, but we know you have these other 4 or 5 things that are on your plate. We're going to take 2 things off. And maybe these 2 projects we want to do right now, we're going to hold off for 6 months,
Yep.
right? Or, we're going to get you some side help, right? Some temp help to help you do a few other things so you could just focus on this project, right? I can't tell you enough, like partners are expensive. Consulting is expensive, right?
Yep.
You're paying 175, 200, $250 an hour, right? To get this education, get this training. And the last thing you want to do this multiple times.
Hmm.
You want to be able to do it one time, have that momentum going, but also know that you have to keep your team happy. You have to know that they have a life outside of work. How do you motivate them to be the best version of themselves when they show up for training and continue to work hard to make the ERP deployment successful? There's only so much ERP partner could do at the end of the day. If the other person is not going to do the work because they're so overloaded, nothing that anyone can do at
Yep.
that point. So I think
No.
that's a really important point in developing a successful team is to understanding how to manage workload expectations.
Yep. And I think
Yeah,
you have to be brutally honest at this stage and say you will
yeah,
probably have to put in more hours than your normal 9 to 5.
right, right.
You're going to have to.
Mm-hmm,
It's as simple as that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But as long as the importance is driven, depends how you do it with the project team, but you know, leaving it out or buy in lunch for everyone when you're having those training sessions, whatever, give some kind of little incentive.
Yeah,
Because I think there's only so much you can keep driving. Oh, you're really valued. You're really valued. I don't care whether you think I'm valued when I'm
right,
snowed under, having to catch up because I'm stuck in, 2 hour long configuration sessions.
right.
Stop telling me I'm valued. Like, I don't feel valued when I'm getting
Yeah,
overworked. So
exactly, exactly.
that's what you've got to kind of navigate through.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
But I think it starts one, it starts from the top, and two, you have to be brutally honest and say, look,
you
we're
have to be
going to do
brutally
some more.
honest.
But it needs someone steering it, at least from
Yeah.
the steering committee side that says you're going to have to deprioritize projects now.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't even, to be fair, you shouldn't even be doing an ERP project if you're going to when it started, you're still prioritizing other day-to-day projects on top of it. This is now the most important one. As we said at
Right.
the start, it's the most expensive one. It's the heart transplant of the business. It needs someone now to say, right, this project's delayed by 6 months. This one's delayed by 6 months. All focus on this. If you were to apply 80/20 here, every single time, the ERP migration or implementation is the 80.
Yep.
That's the one that can't falter because, well, we've had episodes about organ rejection and failed
Mm-hmm.
ERP implementations. It's going to be a lot worse if you don't
Yeah.
constantly prioritize this one on top of other ones. And if that means that, salespeople aren't getting back to customers within 24 hours and it's taken 2 or 3 days, then so be it. So
Right.
be it. For the long
Right.
run, it will
Exactly.
make sense.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we said before. Maybe tell your customers, look, we're going through this massive change.
Mm-hmm.
Things might be delayed. Shipments might be slightly delayed, or
Right.
communication might be slightly delayed. Tell
Right.
them up front.
Tell
Be
them
honest with
exactly. Just
everyone.
be honest.
You're not doing
Exactly.
anything secretive or illegal.
No.
Just
Yeah.
tell them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Just tell them. Yeah. Everyone will be super, super respectful of that. Say, yeah, no, that makes sense. I appreciate you telling me that. Right? Maybe I could
Yeah.
expect an extra day of delivery. Maybe I'll send a PO in a couple days earlier than I
Yeah.
normally do.
There is times when someone or something happens and someone has to step out of the project team. So we
Mm-hmm.
built our project team. What happens if someone, I don't know, has an accident, has some time off work or for family reasons, medical reasons? We're screwed, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, kind of no, right? I mean, if you're developing a high performing, project team to execute your ERP implementation, I think you need to have a plan for substitutions, right? There's a reason why there's, what is there, 12 people on a basketball team, right? They just don't rely on five and go out and play every day. If someone gets injured, so they need to bring somebody else in, right? And they get subbed in and they play at a high level and they just pick up where they left off, right? Maybe they're not everyone's Michael Jordan and doing 60 points, but at least there's that person that understands the playbook, that understands the direction that we're going in, right? And it's kind of a simple, it's kind of the same analogy in an ERP project is who is our substitutions in case we need them, right? They don't need to be in every meeting, but they should be at least briefed like every week or every 2 weeks on what we're doing, right? And maybe they could start learning and training and testing the system in the background, right? And start being involved in the project. So if someone is needs to step away for a family issue, there's vacations and things like that that happen, the project doesn't stall, right? That area doesn't stall.
Mm.
It could continue moving forward. And that's where you really need a strong project manager that understands, this dynamic in this environment to keep everybody in harmony, right?
Yeah.
Working together. So, I think substitution is important. You don't need you don't need like a substitution from a substitution to substitution. Obviously, I think that's, you can't do that. But, from your main project team, have one substitution, right, for each person. Say, who else can step in case,
Yep.
we needed somebody else to work on something, whatever it is, right? And it's always good to have two heads than one, right? At the end of the day, for certain things that we need to get done in the project. But it's easier said than done sometimes. But I think if you could, really take some time to understand who our substitutes will be if needed, so they could kind of come right away and pick up where the other person left off. I think that's fantastic. And I know not all companies could do it, but I think if you take some time and think this through and find substitutes, you'll be surprised. You'll find some diamonds in the rough.
Yep.
You know?
Okay, so we've named the people at least. What other kind of general tips have we got in terms of
Yeah.
creating a project team?
Yeah, I think, workload expectations, having a substitute plan, having internal meetings, right? We said 30 minutes to 1 hour all the time.
Hmm.
Buying pizza is great. Keeping morale high. I think with any team you have, you got to keep the morale high. Everyone's
Yep.
really excited when the project starts. And trust me, towards the end of the project, they all just want it done. You just want to I want to be done and get this thing over with, right? Um, and so it's these are big projects. Life cycles, are long. Things could get delayed. These are people-based projects at the end of the day. So, you think about how you could get things done quickly, see how you could get things done with the right intent, right? And be able to meet the objectives of your business, right? Whether that's departmental or your business, right, are the goals of the ERP implementation. So, with proper planning and everyone getting on the same page and knowing what you're stepping into, you'll be able to put together a pretty solid team,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I think this is the team that will make or break the project during the project. I think you could probably force a project through with super technical people and it will be fine for a while, but everyone's going to hate it and resent it. These are the people that are going to be the ones that make sure that not only is it successful, but people are heard, are also part of it. I think this is one
Yeah.
of the key ones when we're trying to drive morale when it's down. Is like,
Mm-hmm.
look, I know it's a bunch of work, but you're having your say. This is when you get to decide how your business, well, sorry, how your department runs, and it's
Mm-hmm.
this project team that have to do both the
Yeah.
technical side, be responsible for it, and driving kind of that culture that is needed to make sure that this is something that is done with everyone involved, even when times are tough. They're the ones
Yeah.
that are still digging in,
Right.
and I think that permeates into end users.
Yeah. 100%. And don't approach this project as like a QuickBooks project.
Yep.
You need more involvement. There's a lot more decisions, right? This is a system you're going to use for 20 or 30 years. So spend the proper time, get the right people, to help implementing the system. You're going to get great, tremendous outcomes, positive outcomes for your business if done correctly with the right project team.
Yep. Yeah, and these kind of, as you said, these projects they can seem overwhelming. This is a multi-month project, and it can seem a bit daunting, especially when um, that project team sits down with the ERP partner, and the ERP partner flips out like a 400 row smart sheet project. Holy crap! I didn't think about that. I
Yeah,
didn't think about that, and there's this
yeah,
ton
yeah,
of work ahead.
yeah,
It can feel overwhelming, but it's
yeah.
with the right team in place, the right structure in place, um, the success is within reach.
Right, 100%.
Good. Thank you very much, Nirav. We should maybe do like I know on YouTube you can create those kind of
Series.
mini series, can't you? We should put one in
Yeah,
order.
we should.
We should do that sometime.
Totally.
Um,
One episode I was just thinking about we should doing is how to communicate you're doing an ERP project outside of your business. It's like vendors and
hmm,
customers and other
yeah.
partners. I think that would be a great one.
Yeah, we've said about this before, haven't we? We said, I think we only really touched upon telling like some key customers,
Yeah.
but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I agree.
Even from like maybe even from the cybersecurity side of things. If you're sending an invoice to a customer, they're going to
Right.
just their AP team is going to reject it and go, "That's not what that company's invoices look like."
Right, exactly.
It's a good
Who's
point.
this AI agent that I'm talking to all of a sudden? This agentic agent all of a sudden come out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How's it?
So,
This guy used to always make spelling mistakes. Now he isn't. He's just the same guy.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or you start getting like email. You start sending emails automated through an AI to your customer, and it's like in that
Yeah,
typical Chat GPT style with like
yeah.
bold
Emojis and all that.
subheadings, the colon, and then the text, and then another
Yeah.
bold. Exactly. This looks like Chat GPT.
Oh,
Good.
I think
I
it'll be
enjoyed
that.
this one.
Great episode.
Great episode. Yep. So ABCs of ERP and beyond. Podcast all about ERP, all about how it transforms a business. If you've never heard of an ERP, well, you should check out our backlog. We got tons of videos, tons of podcast episodes on it by now. So check us out. Details are below. we published every 2 weeks. We publish both to YouTube, so we have a YouTube channel. We also publish to every major podcast platform, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I always run out as soon as I send them to Pocket Casts,
Fucking
whatever.
cost,
It'll be on there.
wherever. Yeah.
And we also post on LinkedIn. We now have a LinkedIn page, the ABCs of ERP and Beyond. So make sure you follow that. Every episode that we release will also be published there and no doubt reposted by both of us. So with that, Nirav, enjoy your next couple of weeks and I'll catch
Yes,
you on the
sir.
next episode.